When you're flying your Mini 2, using your phone screen is pretty much an essential part of flying and controlling the aircraft. And you expect that what you see on your screen will correctly indicate what's actually going on with the drone. Well, as I found out the other day, it's not always the case. Sometimes it's telling you one thing and doing another, which can have pretty serious consequences. And that is what I'm talking about today. Hello, I'm Ian and I play with drones, and the other day I did a strong wind test between 4 different model drones, including the DJI Mini 2. Now, I had already done a wind test a few months ago with the Mini 2 and it seemed to handle the wind really well. So I could not understand why in this latest wind test it was so quick to start failing against the wind and start being blown off course and actually drifting. After a pointer from one of our subscribers, I did a little bit of investigation, and it seems we have got a nasty little bug with the DJI Fly app that can easily catch you out. As you can see in the screen recording of the Mini 2 from the other day, I switch it on and take off in sports mode. Here, when it's still on the table before takeoff, you can see the sports mode indicated by the S in the top left. And then within a few seconds of flying up and out over the field, it starts drifting to the right and being blown off course, despite it still being in sports mode. The Mini 2 has got the same wind rating as the Air 2S, and despite having a slightly lower top speed, it should have handled this wind far better. So I downloaded the flight logs to airdata.com to analyse exactly what was happening. Don't know if you've used airdata.com before, but it is a fantastic little site. It lets you upload your flight logs from your phone, and it then lets you replay the flight, showing you all of the technical data that was controlling the drone during your flight. And sure enough, here is the issue. If you look down at the event log, you can see the mode changes after just 4 seconds after takeoff when it sets itself into P mode. And when it goes into full flight, you can see the mode stays in P or normal mode. And in fact, the entire flight was actually made in P mode, not sports mode. And yet, when you look at the screen app recording, it indicates that sports mode was actually in place for the entire flight, both at takeoff and later on, exactly when the Mini 2 is being blown off course and drifting. So, which is right? The switch was definitely set to sports mode, as you can see here on the remote, and the screen shows sports mode, but the flight logs show P or normal mode, and frankly the poor performance in the wind says to me the Mini 2 is definitely flying in P mode. But look, to test it, what I actually did today was I went out with the Mini 2 and I made use of the sensitivity settings that I went through in my smooth gimbal settings video about a month ago, where you can set, in the advanced gimbal settings, you can set the rotational yaw to be very slow in Cine mode and very fast in sports mode. And so here you go. This morning I started the flight with the remote, switched to sports mode, and I tried to rotate left and right. And you can see that it only rotates quite slowly. And when I fly out over the field, I don't get up to a very high speed at all. Crucially, when I flick the switch to normal mode and then straight back to sports mode, now look how fast it rotates when I move the left stick. It rotates much faster, and unsurprisingly, when I then try to fly out in today's strong wind, it is way faster and coping fine. And sure enough, when we look at the flight logs of this latest flight, again you can see it takes off and quickly jumps into P mode, but the moment I flick that switch to normal, then back to sports mode, only then does it actually change into sports mode. Exactly the same thing happens in Cine mode. You take off in Cine Smooth, but in fact it's normal mode, and as you can see here again with the fast rotation. And again, when you switch to normal, then back to Cine Smooth, only then does it start rotating nice and gently. So whilst I was out there, I checked the behaviour of the Air 2S and the original Air 2, and they both behave in exactly the same way. For both of them, if you start up the drone and the remote with the remote switch already switched to sports mode, they will still only be taking off in normal mode, and they will stay that way until you switch to N mode and then switch back to S mode. So there we are, a bug in the DJI Fly app that makes you think you're flying with the power of sports mode when in fact you are only flying with normal mode power. And whilst that may only be an annoyance with the Air 2 and the Air 2S, not so with the Mini or the Mini 2. Their reduced power and their reduced top speeds means that on a windy day, it could literally be the difference between getting your Mini 2 back or watch it being blown away over the horizon. Now, look, having raised this with DJI, I'm guessing that just like the other issue I noticed a few weeks ago, the Mini 2 battery discharge when it's left in the hub, I'm reckoning that DJI will be aiming to fix this bug through a future firmware update. But I have to say, I'm genuinely staggered that such a basic but critical bug could be still in place on models that have been out for over a year. Anyway, look, forewarned, forearmed, and now you know. And if you know anybody with a Mini or Mini 2, most notably, because they're the ones that are most vulnerable, then maybe forward this video onto them. And I don't know, I guess I probably need to do another wind test, because it's clear the one I did the other day was not treating the Mini 2 fairly at all. Anyway, look, hopefully you find that useful. Give me a little thumbs up, always helps. And as ever, wherever you are, staying safe and sane, have fun, happy flying.